Welcome to Tales from the Old World, a Warhammer fantasy podcast, sponsored by War of the Ever-Chosen, a 6th edition fantasy event with some of the most fun and unique scenarios in the hobby. Go to talesfromtheoldworld.com to get your tickets today to claim the title of Ever-Chosen.
Welcome to Tales from the Old World, covering everything Warhammer Fantasy. My name's Dave, and today we're going to be talking to Tom Carley, whose 3D miniature printing store, TheBeastForge, can be found on Etsy. Tom's a veteran Strigoi Vampire Count 6th edition player. You might have met him around the community in the UK. He goes to a lot of events, and he's a good laugh too. And we have a really good chat where we kind of go over how Tom got into the hobby and why he chose Strigoi as an army. Strengths and weaknesses of a standard Vampire Count army and typical army list you're going to come up against. What's different about a Strigoi army itself, and what different about their tactics? What's the strengths of a Strigoi army? What's different about Tom's particular list and how he uses it if you need a bit of inspiration, because his is a bit different than most Strigoi players. What units he chooses against different races to best effect. Talks about how to use vampire magic and complement it with certain units. The different roles of ghouls, skeletons and zombies and how you treat them all very differently. How to use ethereal units. How to use black coaches and how to keep adding wounds to it. Tom's record is 26 wounds apparently. We go on a little bit about the lore of the Strigoi and why it's fun and it's a bit more different to the other vampire counts and anything else in Warhammer, to be fair. We talk about using speed to your advantage as Strigoi, how to win without relying on magic, the tactic of creating ranked units in the game rather than bringing them, so creating and rising things rather than bringing them with you in your actual list itself. How to make your enemy save their dispelled dice, allowing you to cast more spells. And finally, we kind of go through how Strigoi actually cannot have magic items. So he talks about their bloodline powers and how, to be honest, that actually makes up for it anyway, as he would just choose them if he had the choice anyway. But before we get started, remember tickets are still available for War of the Ever-Chosen, hosted in Manchester in February. It's an amazing 6th edition fantasy event where players are travelling from all over the UK to compete for the title of Ever-Chosen. It's going to be a pretty unique event, and you can read all about the unique rules and scenarios on the event page of talesfromtheoldworld.com. It should be a good laugh, so I hope to see you there. Anyway, enjoy my chat with Tom. We recorded this about 5 minutes after his Strigoi gave my Chaos Army a spanking, so I can definitely say the guy knows his stuff. Alright, enjoy. Right, so Tom, do you want to,
Dave,
shall we start off by, do you want to tell us a little bit about your history in the game and when you got into it? And...
Yeah, so I got into it, I remember it was on my 10th birthday.
Was it?
Yeah, it was when literally on my 10th birthday, I went into Games Workshop in Loughborough looking for a copy of Monopoly. You know, because it's Games Workshop.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to set a Monopoly, a Star Wars Monopoly, for my birthday. And I was like, oh, wrong shop. And so then I found a game much better than Monopoly. I remember when I went into the Games Workshop, they were like, okay, what's better, Wizards and Swords or Fantasy Future? And I was like, well, I did come in for Star Wars, so let's try 40k.
Yeah,
but I did both intro games, got into fantasy.
That must be so many people's story, that.
Yeah,
like Star Wars, so it's
and you got to remember at that time that was Phantom Menace was out.
And there's no Lord of the Rings, so you kind of think...
Not quite. This was like a year before Fellowship came out, so that buzz wasn't there. I'd read it, but I wasn't like, oh my god, Aragorn at that point. You know, that came the following year, and I remember the green box coming out. But anyway, that's not fantasy. Yeah. But I did both intro games, and 40k seemed fun, but fantasy was just a lot more fun back at the time because all the spell names and stuff like that. And yeah, I remember picking up. There weren't like start collecting boxes or anything back then. Yeah. But I got the big, I think it was 40-50 quid back then, where you got some orcs and you got some Empire and the rulebook and all of that stuff.
Something that'll be like £1,000 now if you found it.
Yeah. It's your firstborn child and all that stuff, But I got that and feverishly painted that up. That at the time I thought was incredible. Now I think I would look better if I flicked it into a pot of paint,
I realised I wasn't I always thought I was a terrible player. When I found my models from when I was a kid, and some of them were terrible.
Yeah.
But some of them, because I never knew about like null oil, and I never knew about, so I literally just lashed a load of it in that, and you're like, that's actually.
Yeah.
Except, done, 12-year-old Dave.
I don't have any of my old stuff.
Oh, do you know?
No. I lived away for a bit, like moved country.
Oh, right.
And everything was at my mum's house, and I was about 19 at the time. She was like, "Do you want your Warhammer?" I was like, "No, I'm never getting back into that." So I stopped playing when I was 16 because, like a lot of men at that point, you have to choose between two things: toy soldiers or vagina.
Yeah.
And women won at that point.
It's weird when you get to more our age. You're like,
made the wrong choice. Wrong choice.
Oh,
amount of money in Bretonians, man.
Which one would have given me much less hassle?
Yeah. Christ, the painter I'd be now if I didn't have that. Christ, I'd be so good.
I'd be so happy. My second wife, she's going to be so much nicer to me.
But then I got back into it a year before lockdown, and firstborn child on the way. Let's get into a really fucking expensive hobby,
I think because the reason I got back into it, because I did it when I think just before high school. I was kind of doing it, and and it was literally I only started about a year ago back into it, which is why I'm usually the confused looking guy at tournaments and stuff. But there's a brilliant. I'll put a photo up, and there's a brilliant photo of when I was playing with you.
Yeah.
I do, but that's still, which is just.
Where I've just got my head in my hands.
I'm turning to you, and then just say, "What? Why are you being like this?" And you look so upset with me.
What Bretonian's going to do on the charge? There's only 3 of them on the front. What's the worst that can happen? He loses the game.
I haven't played Bretonia for years.
He loses the game.
Do you know that? What? Even though you know the rules, when you just have the brain fart, you're just like, oh.
It's all good. That was a really fun. That was a. Alex Storch's Resurrection,
which is always
great
good.
laugh.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Godfather of 6th edition.
What was it? But I just got a bit later, so it wasn't really. I'd already kind of stopped the whole going out bit. It was more from work, just something to de-stress because I found myself. I got back from work and I was thinking, I should be doing some more work. And as soon as it was the only thing, like I'd watch because. I run a production company, so if I'm watching a film, my brain's going, you should be writing a film, you should be trying to get your film made. But if I'm reading a book, it's like, maybe you need to write more. So it's literally the only thing I can focus on.
No, I totally get you with that. And it's one of the other reasons I got back into it is I'm a chef, and I was reading something in a newspaper or something like that about the reason a lot of chefs burn out of the industry is we try and get all of our creative passion from the job.
Yeah.
And
that's right with me as well, actually.
You try and seek all of that. So all your creative fulfillment, you try and get out of your job, and that's true for most creative types. What if you can't work in that job that gives you that creative freedom? So I used to do fine dining and Michelin star work, which that gives you that fulfillment, but it takes everything else away from your life. So I don't want to work in that anymore because it's horrible hours, crap money. So I was working in still a good place, but I'm having to make nuggets and chips for kids because that's what makes money. And I was trying to seek all my fulfillment from that, and I was hopping from job to job to job to job to job. And then as soon as I started Warhammer, I started back in it. Stayed at my last job for 3.5 years.
I genuinely think it's good for your mental health.
It is, because then you get that outlet.
You do have the problem with the mental health when you get too obsessive about it. You get too addicted to it.
There is that.
But I think it just lets you focus on one thing, and it's the only thing that you can genuinely figure. Which people listening to this must be
didn't exist when I came back into it.
Which is few, because that's what my time was like. I was still reading books. I was reading. Never really played much 40k, but I was reading the books, so I'm really into the lore and everything. And I was hearing what was happening to fantasy, so I didn't get White Dwarf or anything anymore. But just like
heard about the end times and all of that.
It sounded like a copyright thing, and it sounded like it was just getting rid of it. So I was furious. So, but there seems to be so many different people's stuff. So when I got back into it, I was really, I'll have a look around, see that, because none of my mates trying to explain this stuff to my mates is trying to explain. Brain surgery to him. Like, why? So when you looked around and there was actually events around. But did you ever go to 8th, or did you just stay on 6th? Because
I stopped playing on 6th. That was when
that was my thing when I came back in. Because I left at 5th. Was kind of when I stopped.
Also, massive change.
Yeah. So when I came back, I was looking at 8th, and I was like, "What the fuck is it?" Where 6 was more 4th and 5th with actually either some improvements here, and so.
No, I never had to deal with the block of 1,000 swordsmen or anything like that. No, never had that. I stopped playing with 6th, and I came back in. I tried Age of Sigmar. I had a flesh-eater quartz army, which, you know, wicked models. I've got to say, I love what they've done, because you got to remember, I didn't see the new Strigoi models, the plastic ones. I didn't see the plastic crypt ghouls. I didn't see the crypt flayers or the terror guys. So this is all brand new to me. So I was like, oh, these are amazing. Because I always wanted to play a Strigoi army when I was 12, but 3 ghouls for £9. You know, it gets expensive real fast. Whereas, there's a box that has got, like, I think it's 16 or 20 in it. I bought the Start Collecting set.
Well, I think and
it was cheap as hell.
I must have some Age of Sigmar. I've got a lot of Age of Sigmar models, but just breaking them and smashing them and putting them on a square base. That's it.
And, you know, I'm not going to say Age of Sigmar's crap. Age of Sigmar's good. I tried it. I personally didn't like it. The models are stunning.
What it is it's not even the game. It's we're all so heartbroken of what they did to we take it out on Age of Sigmar. I mean, because I've never really looked at the rule book.
No, I played one intro game and went, there's no flanks.
So I think it's more it's your ex-girlfriend, if you know, even though you got this new fancy word, just like how she hurt you, and she left me. Still think about her every now and again.
The thing is, she left me and she didn't even ask me first. No one asked me my opinion, but no. So I'm nothing against Age of Sigmar players. It's, you know, it's done a lot in the fact that it's brought a lot more people into the hobby, which is great. You know, it's a lot easier to get into. It's a lot easier to play, which is wicked. And like I say, the stunning models that have come from it, I could only praise. There are. You've got to be a bit crafty, and if anyone's seen my armies, they'll know that that's what I'm about with the whole creative basing. Like, anyone who looks at a unit and goes, "They'll never fit on bases," I take as a personal challenge.
I'll take some photos before I go as well, and I'll show the guys some of your art. But you've got some good photos actually. If you don't mind.
Well, I spam the 6th edition.
Yeah, I'll nick some of them. But I suppose that leads us into quite nicely in terms of Strigoi has been has always been your army, would you say?
Used to play Blood Dragons back in the day, because I said there was no Start Collecting box. There was a Christmas box for the Blood Dragons. Yeah. You know how they come out with £150 boxes? They still come out with them today, but you get a lot less of them. Yeah. £150 box that was a bunch of Black Knights, Graveguard, and every Blood Dragon character. And it had a special edition Battle Standard Bearer. Loved that box. Yeah. I had everyone in my family. Like, they were like, "What do you want for Christmas?" That. Everyone pitch in. That's what I want. Yeah. You know, I think I got that and some chocolate that Christmas, and that was it. You know? Fair. Other kids want a PlayStation. Nope, Dad's got one of them.
But you can count them as multiple. You know, it's not just one present. You open it up and there's a million presents.
There's tons in there. Yeah.
So you're not going to be upset.
So I did play Blood Dragons back in the day. Always wanted to play Strigoi, but never had the cash to do so.
Right. So So for people who are not. So even just vampire count players, or played against them much. So what's a standard kind of vampire count army? And we'll get into Strigoi in a minute.
Standard in terms of...
And what's their strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, so the standard army that you'd pretty much look at, we'll say 2,000 points to make life easy.
Yeah.
You're going to have a count or a lord of your chosen bloodline, and then his crew of necromancers. You know, 3 if he's a count... 2 if he's a lord. Yeah. That's what most people will run.
In terms of how hard they are, what other lords could you run a vampire lord into and feel very comfortable?
Anything that isn't a chaos lord.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Or a greater demon.
Yeah.
You know, I've ran him into a chaos lord and he's been fine. You know, they're so bloody strong. They've got what I think the Blood Dragon one especially has got the highest weapon skill of a foot character in the game. Yeah, he's incredible. Even a Necrarch one, who are the casting ones, have got still very good stat lines compared to say their Empire alternatives.
I thought they were the ones that you keep out of combat, but is that kind of...
You don't have to. I mean, they've got one...
They can still handle themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a vampire. You know, it's still going to have an Empire captain or something like that. It will have pretty much, but the thing is, they're very expensive.
Yes.
You look at an Empire Lord, points-wise, I mean, mine in the list I'm on at the moment is 440 points just for the Lord.
Yeah, it's not on a dragon.
It's not on a dragon. That is him on his feet. Yeah. That's a lot of points for one character. So, yeah. That's the characters. And then you've got all their little trinkets and stuff like that. You can play around with the laws and stuff and with what you do with those characters. But that's generally the given thing. Some people will swap out one necromancer for a white lord or for a thrall if you want to have a bit more punch in a unit. Talking of whites, most people will take 1, if not 2 units of whites, and you've got the 2 different types.
Yeah.
So you've got your Black Knights, your mounted whites. My personal feeling is that they're the best cav unit in the game. And then
why is that?
Because they've got a 2-up save, they cause fear, they're strength 6 on the charge, they've got magical attacks and killing blow, and you can give them a banner that means they can always hit on 3s.
Yeah.
There's not much in the game that can look at that and go, it'd be fine. You know, there's really not much that can look at that. The only thing that I'm ever worried about charging them into is a block of demons, because the demons don't really care about 3/4 of what I've just said.
I get it.
You know, they don't care. Killing blow, still the same.
You get a ward save off killing blow, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So they this high strength, meh.
They
don't give a shit. You know, and then going back to the standard list, skeletons. If you're paying for zombies, unless you're filling up a tiny quarter of your points, you're doing it wrong. Don't pay for zombies. Raise zombies. They're shit.
Yeah.
They're brilliant when you raise them. They're shit when you pay for them.
Because I was talking with you when I played somebody not long ago when I was Dark Elves. They just put they just raised. What's the spell called? Invocation of
Nehek.
Yeah. So I think they did a couple of irresistible forces, and they just had so much more dice than.
They're incredible when you pull them out of nowhere. They're brilliant.
Just zombies in front of all my archers.
Yep.
In front of a bolt thrower, so I couldn't really shoot much. And then next turn they then raised into the little gap which you always have because of terrain.
Yep.
To get your knights through or something. Just more zombies.
No, it's my board. It's not your board.
So I'm going to kill them.
Yeah.
But I've just wasted.
And you will get the points for them, but they're 6 each.
Yeah, I've just wasted.
So, woo.
You just essentially wasted a turn getting rid of them, and by then, your Blood Knights are nearly on, or the
Black Knights.
Black Knights
don't get Blood Knights in this.
So I know black, but he had Black Knights. But so by the time I got rid of them, the Black Knights were in charging range, and then it's good night,
And then still in the core slot, we've got the second best swarm in the game. I think Nurglings are still the best.
I absolutely love the Nurgling.
Just -1 to hit is insane.
Yeah.
But
ward save as well.
But yeah, bat swarms though are just an annoyance more than anything.
Well, we have just played a game. Well, you'd say they your MVPs? Who would you say? Because they stopped. I had I went with my Chaos Thimir, which is basically Chaos Warriors, but with like Albion stuff. So there's Fen Beasts and Dark Emissaries. But I
see a nasty unit that I don't want to get into combat. I chuck those bats in and I go, that's fine. There's 25 wounds there to get through.
Well, it held up a Fen Beast about 2, maybe 3 turns.
2 turns, then it held up a chariot.
And then it held up a chariot, and then it ended up on my Lord's Knights.
Yeah.
And that kept them, it flanked them, so it kept the Knights still, so your Knights could eventually reach them.
Yeah, and we'll get into tactics, but that's Vampires 101. Is put the Bat Swarm into that nasty unit, and then get your other strong unit in there to do something with them, So Bat Swarm's bloody brilliant. Love them. They're expensive. There's a reason they're 0 to 1.
Yeah.
Vampire counts, I think, the only army in the game that can take 2 different types of swarms as well. So in your specials,
it's the Ethereal one as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Which are equally as incredible. Charge them into a unit as long as they don't have magical attacks, and they will just sit there.
Yeah.
Bat Swarms don't crumble, so that's why they're incredible. But Spirit Hosts take 0 damage, so that's why they're incredible. Direwolves, love them. They're fast cav. They're not as good as other fast cav because they can't flee.
They get the don't they get +1 strength on the charge?
Do you get +1 strength on the charge? They've got movement 9. They cause fear. They're insane. They're the best war beast like dogs in the game.
Yeah.
Skeletons, love them. If you give them with spears, they're all right. Put them with hand, weapon, and shield. That's suddenly a 4-up save that you can bring back as much as you want.
Well, what would be the point of that? Because they're not really a hold. Are they still count them as a holding? Oh, because you can rebuild. You can use spells to rebuild them.
So whenever you cast Invocation onto a unit that pre-exists, they come with that equipment.
Yeah.
So if you give them light armor, hand, weapon, shield, you only need to start with a unit of 10, and that can be a unit of 50 by the end of the game. It's a really good tactic to just boot up a unit like that. They're brilliant. They will hold against most of their other. Put them into Empire Swordsman, for example. Yeah. Skellies will win.
Yeah.
Okay, they're running weapon skill too, but they're not there to do damage. They're there to stay there.
Just be annoying. Get in the way.
I mean, that's what 80% of the army list is. All the core stuff is not there to do damage. It's there to get in the way. Other than the dogs, which are brilliant for harrying flanks and for taking war machines and archers and stuff like that. Like in our game, it's Chaos. so there was nothing of that really to take out. But there's still a thorn in your side.
But that's well, hold them up until the Knights or the Lord get there.
And
it's
really? Just waves and waves of crap that you then have to get through. That they might not do a lot. They might only take one out on the way.
Well, we'll get into your tactics and your army, but in deployment, we were saying that a big problem for me was, we call it chaff, don't we? Where you put all the dogs down, because you had so much dogs and bats
and ghouls
that essentially my whole army would pretty much down. So I had to guess where these bloody knights were going to be. And I still
had a third of my army to put down, and you were finished.
That was a big problem. But I think I did okay. But it was a massacre at the end.
So we spoke about whites. You know, they're brilliant. Standard army's going to have at least 1 or 2 units of them. Fellbats, great as well. Little suicide units. Oh, we didn't talk about ghouls. Ghouls.
They might have been your MVPs.
So
they're
ghouls,
rolling for poison.
They're divisive in the community, and I don't know why, because they're incredible. 8 points for strength 3, toughness 4, poison attack skirmishes that cause fear.
Why are they divisive?
Because some people were like, wow, why do you need chaff in an army that can just raise its own shit back up? And it's like, I don't think you heard me when I said toughness 4, poison, cause fear, skirmishes.
It's poison. It's like it's like saying to a lizardman, don't use any skinks.
Yeah.
Because how many times have we gone, skinks are useless?
Yeah, like Saurus are great.
And then it's the poison part. Poison part as well. And they get 2 attacks.
And even if you're only taking a couple units of them, they're great for a screen at the start, because they're skirmishers.
And you weren't doing big units of them, were you? You were doing like 5?
No, big unit, they're rubbish, because they are alive, so they will panic. And they will flee.
What leadership have they got?
6.
So, they're not there. That's not their job, is it? Just
And it's great when you pass a leadership test on their own leadership. You feel amazing about yourself. You feel like you've done a really good job. And then getting to the rare stuff, the Banshee, probably the most hated unit in the game. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't play Vampire Counts who sees a Banshee go on and go, oh, that's not a problem.
Well, it's weird, because I think the first time I ever played Vampire, when I got back into the hobby, the Banshee was that's why I was really happy in our game.
It's spoken in hushed tones almost, isn't
it? It's kind of, what was it? It can shoot in combat?
It can. The only restriction to its shooting attack is it can't pick out a character in a unit. It can go through terrain. It doesn't need line of sight.
So it can
go
shoot
into
when
combat.
It can shoot when it's in combat, and it can shoot
only at the unit it's in combat with, or it can shoot into any other combat.
Another combat,
and it won't hit your own unit.
See, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's what I've gone up against Vampire Counts, and they haven't had one, and I'm very much.
What are you doing? The 90 points.
Yeah.
What you get to? So Black Coach is your other rare slot. They're relatively crap in comparison. They are scary. People look at them. They think
it's
they're
that
threatening.
Wound. What happens if, for anybody who doesn't know?
It's called the Invocation of Death. So if they start with 5 wounds base, and they've got a 5-up ward and a 4-up armor save. Every time they cause a wound, they gain a wound.
Right.
If they go past 10 wounds, they become a Scythe Chariot.
Okay.
Doesn't change their unit strength. But their unit strength 5 is a chariot, which is brilliant, because then they can flank and rear stuff and get rid of ranks.
Yeah.
But my record's 26 wounds. That's what I got it up to. It was against the Dark Elf army, and it just tore ass around the rears, and it was just killing everything. Like, I would have a pre-existing combat, and then this chariot would come in and do, that's 5 wounds. I mean, it was lucky. It was a lucky game.
Yeah.
I was doing like 5-6 wounds every impact.
Something's gone wrong if there's 20-odd wounds.
Yeah, I think it was in 4 combats, and across those 4 combats, it picked up like 16 wounds just on impact hits.
Oh, wow. Eh?
And then it's doing, its attacks as well, and it just goes ding, 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 and it just goes insane what it can pick up. But yeah, I love them. I think that there isn't a bad unit in this book.
So So getting into specific, what are the difference with the Strigoi?
So Strigoi, in lore, for those of you who don't know, are the bestial nightmares. They are the bullied stepchild of the vampire army in terms of lore. All the other knightly houses, all the other vampire houses are quite knightly and regal and stuff like that, and that reflects in their army lists. The Strigoi don't have a home. It was destroyed a long time ago. And they are the slavering beasts where they just run forwards and wreck face.
Yeah, they're the feral vampires.
Feral vampires. Yeah. We run fast and hit things fast. In terms of, the back of the book army list that you have in the Vampire Counts really sums them up well. Lots of ghouls, lots of dogs, lots of bats. Charge. I
suppose the closer you get to a ghoul vampire, maybe.
Well, they're called ghoul kings.
Yeah, they are.
In a lot of ways. So, they're insane.
So we'll get into it, but why are they your? Was it the lore thing that made you go that way?
Yeah.
Or was it the rules?
So I've always loved their lore.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. You know, they had a city in the middle of the Badlands that was the jewel of their little empire. And then Neferata got jealous of it, decided that she was going to siege it, twist a load of orcs to come and take it down because she couldn't do it herself, the lazy bitch. And then this giant orc war that came out of nowhere just destroyed them. Now they're scattered. And I love this whole sense of this bestial vampire that's not an aristocratic thing, that hasn't got this all predetermined plan going on and stuff. He just wants a house. That's all he wants is he just wants a house. The whole thing of Strigoi and the lore as well, they would only feed on criminals. So inside their cities, they weren't feared. They were loved. You know, they wouldn't go and hunt in the night and all of that stuff. And even like in the current lore, they'll feed on animals before they'll feed on like a passerby.
Well, I quite like that. What makes them different lore-wise is they don't have like the arrogance, the pompousness of some vampires.
And they actually hate like the other vampires for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Like a creature that just wants to survive.
That's all they want. And that's why I've loved them. Their models I've always liked. I loved the weird bat-like nature of them and stuff. I never liked the big froofy collar of the Von Carsteins.
Yeah.
I never liked the Nosferatu look of the Necroarchs. Love blood dragons. I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
But I did
Bretonia vampires.
Yeah, love them. But I wanted to do the army that I couldn't do as a kid. And I think part of the reason I wanted to do them as a kid is because they were expensive. You want what you can't have.
Yeah.
But now there's I have adult money, not child money, and also 3D printing's a thing. Most of my army is 3D printed, and I just love them. In terms of how they differ from a normal army, like a normal Vampire Counts army, it's all about speed.
Yeah.
And that reflects firstly in their bloodline powers. They can have fly as a foot creature, so you've then suddenly got a vampire that can zip 20 inches across the table.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying for any. I see it every single game. Like, what do you mean turn 2? He's in my back lines. Yeah, no, he's there now. But why?
So you don't have the punch of an extra dragon on it, but
no.
Most people, I'd argue, would bring the dragon for the flying part.
Yeah.
Rather than the.
Okay, it doesn't cause terror, but he's also not a large target. He's a single dude. He's small, and the thing with Vampire Counts and their magic is, he'll just make a unit.
Yeah.
Because they're all casters, other than the Thralls. But I have one army where it's the Vampire Flying Squadron, where the VAF, as I like to call them, the Vampire Air Force, where it's a count, 3 Thralls, a bat swarm, bunch of dogs and ghouls, and then a bunch of Fellbats.
Yeah.
And it's, no, these are mice guys. And I just fly across the board. It's not that strong, but it's funny, And people say, oh, but, the strength of a vampire army is in its casters. I've still got one.
Yeah.
That's enough. Like, oh, but what if your enemy dispels? I don't count on casting magic the first turns. I don't count on it. I'll roll it every now and again, but miscasts are awful.
And from our game, you weren't using destructive.
I don't use destructive magic.
It's
all about buffing.
Yeah.
And creating blocks of meat and stuff. I think Necroarchs are about destructive magic because they can do death magic a lot better.
Yeah.
They can add range to their spells and stuff like that. They're really good at the offensive magic. And so are the Von Carsteins. They're really good at offensive stuff.
So basically, you use magic that will add to the strengths of Strigoi.
Yeah,
for their killingness, you would say.
Exactly. So whip a vampire behind the back line, raise a unit of zombies right next to him.
Yeah.
Bang. I don't bring any ranked units to the table. I create them in the game as and where I need them. I make those slow units happen where I need them to be.
Yeah. It's
a very disconcerting plan for the enemy. And I was saying to Dave earlier, there's an old magic adage that maths is for blockers, tactic is for defenders in my book. I will go fast, I'll overwhelm you, hope you make mistakes and panic.
Yeah.
There's nothing in my army that moves slower than 8 inches. The whole army's quick.
That's right.
Everything's fast. Everything will be in combat latest turn 3.
Because you've got, with your armies, you've got two big blocks of knights.
2 massive blocks of black knights.
With ranks, or like 2 rows of them.
Well, so there's 10 of them. 9 plus a character in each one. Again, the controversial thing of running a mounted necromancer, people get afraid of that. But I've got nowhere else to put them. Because the rest of my army is 25 dogs, 25 ghouls in units of 5. You can't put characters in ghouls because they're scavengers. They're you're not allowed. 2x3 Fellbats. a coach, and a banshee. This is 2,500.
There was because playing them, there was a wave.
And you do panic, don't you? When you see it coming towards you, like, what?
It's like, shit, here we go. And you kind of, because I got Chaos Warrior, so I know most of my stuff could beat that line in combat. But what it makes me worry about is, oh, fucking hell, these guys behind. If I don't deal with these in one turn, these guys are going to be on me.
And I mean, in our game, I exploded and miscasted and took out 4 of my own Black Knights from one of my units in one turn. That was, that's painful.
That was a highlight.
But that's magic, isn't it? It's what happens. If you take the Vampire Air Force, you're not taking magic, but then you're fast enough, you kill the casters. You use some of those Thralls as little suicide bombs to just go straight into if a wizard's hiding in a unit, you go on the flank and you just kill the wizard.
Well, I think it proves that if people have always said that, it's vampire counts, that it's magic which wins you the day.
Nah.
You had one turn that both of you guys miscast, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you had another turn as well,
where I just casted nothing.
Yeah, or did it? Yeah, or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had 2 turns, and we didn't even go the whole fucking 6 turns.
No, we went to turn 5.
I was quite happy I got to 5.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Our dice were very crap that game on both sides. Well, other than when you Fog of Death me, this man rolled 7 6s on Fog of Death against my army.
So if you haven't played with a Dark Emissary before, there's a horrible, I call it the self-destruct button. It's usually used when things aren't going well.
The tactical nuke in this game.
Tactical nuke, which is basically every unit, if it goes off, gets D6. It's only strength 3 hits.
But against the strength 3 army like mine.
Like yours, like Empire, Gobos, Elves. It can be, because every single unit gets D6. But the flip side is...
You didn't suffer in this game.
I don't think... But the flip side is I also roll for each of my units, but it only goes off... Each unit goes 4 over on a D6. It goes. So I did get a couple. It always tends to be about half my army will be.
You probably affected 4 of your units, but I think you took 2 wounds out of all of it. Because you've got lots of armor in yours.
But the good thing about Chaos is toughness and armor. So that's why I'm not too scared.
So you ground. But yeah, mine. Oh Christ! You've made half my army melt.
That was And that was the only way I was still kind of in it.
And this leads us into what the weakness of the Strigoi army is by not running blocks of skellies and zombies.
Yeah.
If someone nails you with a mortar, with a stone thrower, with Fog of Death, Gork's Warpath, any of this stuff, you can't res it back.
Right.
You can't revive those units. Whereas if you're running a Necrarch army, which is a wave of zombies or skeletons or something, with a couple of those units on the side, you don't care if the ghouls die. You don't care if someone nails all your skeletons because you just bring them back next turn.
Yeah.
I don't have a single unit of skellies in my army.
No.
I mean, I used to, but I don't like it. They were too
slow.
slow.
You just raise things, don't you?
Yeah, I've got like 60 zombies that I bring to every game with me. I don't plan on using them. I hope I use them all, but I've never got them all out.
Yeah, using those. What unit of skellies? 10 skellies about same as 5 hounds?
No, 5 hounds are only 50 points.
So I wouldn't have sacrificed any of those hounds for... Because they all got in my way, where skeletons would have got in the way,
so unit of skellies,
but they wouldn't have got to me as quickly, would they?
A unit of 10, just 10, which is a tiny unit, with hand, weapon and shield and no command is 100 points. So that's 2 units of dogs.
That seems like a lot, yeah.
It is a lot, because they cause fear, you know? So they're a lot more expensive than Empire Swordsmen for that reason, you know? But they were just too slow for me. Every game I've taken skellies in, they're sitting on the back line while the rest of my army is causing havoc and doing stuff. And they're like, oh, what do we do, boss? Because with the Strigoi, I'm flying 20 off first turn. That means my march bubble, for those who don't know, with Undead, you can only march within 12 inches of your general. So when my lord buggers off, the rest of the army can't march anymore. So I need the rest of the army to be quick and have high base movement or be alive in order to march. So your bat swarms, they're moving 10 every turn. Your fell bats are moving 20. Your dogs, even when they're out of range, are moving 9. And your ghouls are always moving 8. So everything's going up quickly still. Whereas skellies, once your lord's buggered off, are moving 4.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're a dwarf, you know? Or a Tomb King, but at least Tomb King got their magic, you know? So they're very asymmetrical.
Sorry, you've also got the... what was the spell called which helps you move?
So
that's the one which is kind of like...
Yeah, you've got Van Hel's Dance Macabre, which is just... Oh, it's a beautiful spell. It's beautiful. There's a BAM version of it as well in the Book of Arkham. It's only 25 points, which is so cheap for what it does. If successfully cast, you can move a unit 8 inches. If that 8 inches takes it into contact with an enemy, they count as charging. and I'll double check it, but I don't think they can't even take a reaction to it.
But essentially, in one turn, it's like you could do a march and then a charge, not a charge, but a march and then 8 inches to charge into a unit.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I mean, if you take Black Knights for example, they've got a 14-inch march. 8 with Van Hales puts them at 22.
Yeah,
that's a huge threat range.
Yeah.
That's massive. A flying unit now has a 28-inch threat range, turn 1. Your dogs have got a 27-inch threat range, turn 1.
Yeah.
You know? Sorry, 26.
Yeah.
There's massive amounts of speed. No one thinks a vampire army is going to be fast.
And once you cast that once...
Yeah.
Like when we were playing before, once you cast that once, seems to be all my tactics
revolve around stopping
wherever
that spell.
I moved was, right, I can't move there because he's going to move 22 inches.
But then you use that... you need to then calculate around that, because the thing is with the Book of Arcane, as soon as you reveal it, everyone's going to save dice for that.
Yeah.
So you go, okay, cool, that's 1 or 2 less dice out of the pool.
Yeah.
Immediately, because they're going to use that for Book of Arcane.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So you've got to save the cast of it until you need it, or you use it as a distraction piece to just fish those dice out. You know, and then that allows you to cast all your other spells. The amount of times you let me just have my Invocation of Nehek to bring those zombies back.
What does that do for the guys who do it?
So that's you can raise dead.
Yeah.
So for 1d6, 2d6, 3d6 for zombies and skellies, depending on the casting level. The amount of times you just let me do that, and then because you were scared of the book, and then you're like, oh crap, he just raised 12 zombies. Oh shit. You know, I was very lucky in our game that with my 2 casters, I got Dance Macabre twice. And then every vampire player takes the book. Yeah. Most do anyway. So there's that. Other, magic items of note, Staff of Damnation. I've recently started using it, and it's crazy.
What does that do?
So you've got Hellish Vigor, which is a spell. It's the number 3 on the vampires list. Normally, just the normal spell is target unit gets to reroll hits and strike first. It's the only way that you can make zombies strike first. Against with all other stuff, it's great. Black Knights, it suddenly basically has pseudo hatred. Wicked,
But the killer to me.
But then all undead units within 12 getting it is nuts.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts.
Especially if you've got a bunch of units attacking. So, like, you've got my knights surrounded with 2 or 3 units.
And
they then can all reroll. And you just use one spell to move them in.
Yeah.
Then you cast a spell.
Oh, it's a bit of a wombo combo. It's a bit of a wombo combo. Yeah. And this is it's a double-edged sword of having a necromancer and a unit of knights. You've basically got a taxi service inside there that then juices them up. Okay, you're not. A lot of people would say that it's a bad idea to do that because you're sacrificing putting a combat character or even just another knight in there. But my unit's gonna get there quicker than yours, and it's gonna have a higher potential to hit than yours.
Yeah.
So I class that as better. Okay, it's putting the necromancer in danger, but that's only if you're saying that they're actually going to strike back with the unit. As long
the
as
amount of hits you can especially if you got a big roll of knights that are into it. You got if it's a bat swarm. I'm sure the bat swarm had the re-roll hits a few times, didn't they? Which was which you're throwing a million dice. They're gonna those bats that usually can't hit are gonna hit something.
Yeah, and I mean bat swarms aren't designed to kill things. They did some wounds this game.
Yeah.
It's
did they get a knight? They definitely got a knight, didn't they?
Not from the vigor thing. They didn't. No,
they whittled down a fen beast.
They whittled down a fen beast with it.
4 wounds.
Yeah, it's the knights having the knights.
If anybody doesn't know what a fen beast is, it's essentially it's a very weak tree man. It's just made of mud and shit and sticks.
It's a wet tree man.
Yeah, that's it. So you kind of keep re-upping its wounds with it. But the fact is, my point. I use it because I don't have any swarms. Often the fen beast is used as a swarm, and I just re-up its wounds. But when it goes up against another swarm, that kind of negates it.
Exactly. And then you got the other thing with Strigoi.
It can be it's really tough. It's got toughness 5 or 6. But even then, those bats were whittling it down.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's 5 attacks of base. They'll sit there long enough. Yeah. They don't care if they lose combat. They're designed to be an annoyance, and that fen beast, if it had got into the flank of one of my units of knights, could have really hurt me.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was stop it.
Yeah.
Ghouls against them, fantastic. They're such high toughness, but they've got no armor save. So chuck some ghouls in, pray for 6s.
And you got some 6s. That's what you always get. I think it's the fact getting 2 attacks with the ghouls.
Oh, they're brilliant.
So if you got 5, you got 10 attacks going on the one thing.
I love taking.
You're gonna get. I think you roll 10. you're probably going to get a 6.
Yeah, it's great as well when you take him against the Wood Elf army, where in pitch battles, which is what Dave's event's going to be, they're like, oh, I get 2 extra forests. That's great, mate.
Yeah.
Thanks. Because now that means that I can hop across the board and you will never see me. And then I'll just ping out and you'll be like, oh, that's 10 attacks from 5 models and I'm a Wood Elf and I've got shit armor saves. You know? I hate Wood Elves. Hate them with a passion.
I hate high elves.
Yeah.
It's only the amount of dice that they usually have going up against me.
Oh, it's just the amount of bloody special rules Wood Elves
have.
But anyway, positivity.
So no, I refuse.
So Strigoi don't get magic items. That's one of their things. Right. They get none. But our bloodline powers are broken good. So
take us through them.
Off the bat, we probably get 80 points of shit for free.
Like what? What do you mean?
So if you're a Strigoi Count or Lord, you get a 5-up ward, +1 attack, and hatred for free.
So thinking of my magic items, I got what ward was it? 5-up.
5-up ward. Well, even there's that in this book. So
5-up ward, you get in at least 40-50 points.
So it's 30 in the Vampire's book for a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
A +1 attack, Sword of Battle. That's 25. So that's 55 points.
Yeah.
There isn't anything in here that can give you hatred, but I'd easily say that's worth 30 points for hatred.
The rerolls,
you know, reroll in the first round of combat, and that's for free. The drawback is you can't ever take a BSB.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on a vampire. You can't put a BSB on a vampire, but vampire BSBs are kind of shit anyway.
Yeah. It's not as if they're doing a lot of leadership tests to run, is it?
You can't use any magic item. You have to fight on foot, and you can't take mundane weapons or armor. They're the drawbacks. There's quite a few drawbacks, but you're getting about 80 points worth of stuff for free, just straight off the bat, you know, which is great. Talking of bats, you can make them fly for 45 points, which is great. So that because it's 45 points, you can give it to your Thralls, which are hero level.
Yeah.
So that's the Vampire Air Force, 3 flying Thralls and a flying Count.
Yeah.
Not many people can deal with 4 flying vampires coming at them a turn.
Are Thralls all magic casters?
No, they don't have any levels.
Heroes,
so just the Lords have got casters.
Yeah.
Then you got Curse of the Revenant, which is a very strong loadout with bat form. So your Lord's got a 5-up save, and now he's got regen.
Oh yeah.
So you might hurt him. He's toughness 5, but then he's got a 5-up ward, and then he's got regen.
I would see it as a third saving roll, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you got your armor, then your ward.
And how many people actually use flaming attacks?
Yeah.
No, it's never come up for me. You can give him +1 wound, so you've then suddenly got a Taut Vampire Lord. You then have a 5 wound Vampire Lord on a 20 mil base, which is silly, you know. You know, you can give him infinite hatred as well.
Yeah.
So he's always re-rolling his hits.
Yeah. How much extra is that?
That's only 30 points. So your foot mounted, so a good one is stick him in a unit of Graveguard, which are your foot mounted whites. You give for a Count or for a Lord, you give him infinite hatred for 30, Einstein used for 20, so that's +1 strength, so he's now strength 6, and then +1 wound, so he's strength 6, 5 wounds, always re-rolling.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I declare a challenge and just kill stuff. You know, it's nasty. And then there's the pocket one, which has its uses, which is summon ghouls. When it works wonderfully, which is you can bring on D3+1 ghouls once per game from a table edge. And when you've got an Empire gun line, or facing an Empire gun line or a Dark Elf gun line, and you suddenly bring on 4 ghouls from the back line, and they're like, oh crap.
It's something you're going to have to deal with, isn't it? That's where usually somebody might make the mistake of turning a bolt thrower round.
Yeah, to deal with these 4
deal with
ghouls.
them rather than the bloody knights that
So
are
it's either you turn around and shoot them and deal with them, or, which is good because that gives you a turn to move everything else up, or you don't deal with them, and then you suddenly have these ghouls that are going to chain charge through the rest of your line.
There's a chance of it, because they're skirmishes, aren't they? So it's -1 to hit. If you've got my lines of Dark Elves are just 1 line of 10, so they've got a turn. That's -1 for moving.
Yeah.
-1 for you're probably going to double shoot at it.
Yeah. And if it's an artillery crew, say it's a stone throw or something, you're not shooting at them
because
they're going to be that close. You're probably going to scatter and hit your own thing. If it's a cannon, you'll kill 1.
Yeah. Or or maybe a spellcaster will waste a spell.
Yeah.
She could be spent
So it's 25 points, but that's kind
of... It's a psychological part of it, isn't it? Rather than the damage. It's kind of like, fucking, I'm going to have to deal with that.
I've got to deal with this.
Yeah.
You know, I would take that in a big game, like a 4K game, where I'm taking a second count.
Yeah.
Where I can then... Because it's 25 points, that's quite a lot. You know, because there's a lot of other good stuff in here that I would want to take before that. So it's a good little have it in your back pocket thing.
Yeah.
You know, just to have... they're brilliant. They're so bloody good. They don't have the best bloodline powers, but they've got, like, as in the ones that you pay for, but they easily have the best bloodline abilities.
Right.
Which are the ones that you get for free at the start.
Do you think that's for everybody or just for your style of playing? Do you know? Would you
getting 80 points?
Would you get into a debate and argue with somebody in terms of like, no, you need to be?
Well, Von Carstein's get nothing.
Right.
Straight nothing.
Right.
They just go, but their bloodline powers that they pay for are amazing.
Yeah.
They're really good. Necrots get +1 to cast, can use arcane items, but -2 weapon skill. I'd say that you're not getting a lot for what you're losing there. You know, it's okay. Blood Dragons +2 weapon skill, have to always accept and issue challenges, and your Lords and Counts get full plate armor, but generate 1 less power dice.
Yeah.
So again, that's pretty well balanced throughout. Lamia +2 initiative, cause -1 leadership, can't choose weapons and armor, and -1 weapon skill. Pretty shit.
Yeah.
Strigoi, holy crap. The amount you are getting for free, because all of those are free.
Yeah.
But Strigoi are just, they're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. It can be the power gamer's choice in a lot of ways, but if you're talking true power gaming vampires, that is Von Carstein in the Storm of Chaos list. That is nuts. Yeah. That army list is.
So if you were going up against your own army, and I'm not just asking this because we're just about to have another game.
No,
but just if you were going up against Strigoi in general, not even against your unit.
Yeah.
Well, what would be your tactics? Just for those who we've been helping the guys who play.
Yeah.
So the guys are going against.
Well, the key to taking down any Vampire Counts army is taking down the general.
Yeah.
So if you've got anything in your army...
Which isn't an easy ask, though.
No, but if you've got anything in your army that can snipe out characters, that's great.
So artillery is where you want to...
Well, like magic items as well. I mean, I've lost to a really good friend of mine, Ed Howden, 3 or 4 times because he's landed a stone thrower on my vampire's head, turn 1. Before I've even gone.
He's done that to my units before.
Yeah, you know, so if you've got artillery that is good like that, that's good. It's also a brilliant way of getting rid of Black Knights. Any artillery that can give no armor save, good way of getting rid of them.
That's good guessing that as well. Do you know the distance to get
once you've used them a few times.
Yeah,
you know, people who can use artillery reliably are very good at that.
That's what you know. When I go back into the hobby, I was Empire because that's just I seem to have the most.
Yeah.
Because I had some of them painted and some, so it was on quickest. And I was shit at it. I don't know if I seem to have some kind of mental block. I'm still even with me.
I can't do it.
When you're judging for charges,
yeah.
I'm sure we were playing. I'm like, is that 12 inches?
Yeah, it's when you play with a carpenter and they're like it's 11 3/4.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But no, so sniping the characters is a really good way of dealing with it. Refusing flanks is another very good way because vampire counts are weirdly quick. We've got a lot of movement spells. We've got a lot of very fast units in the army, so if you can box off and refuse flanks, let them come to you.
What happens to your army if you get your general?
Oh, so the rest of anything that's undead will start crumbling. So you have to roll a leadership test, and they're pretty low leadership across the board, other than whites. Whatever you fail that test by is how many wounds you lose. So the army just goes and just disappears real fast, you know.
Is that nobody can march anymore as well?
Nope, no one can march anymore because the general's dead. So it's a really good way of scuppering a vampire council.
A lot of magic dice has just left as well.
Yeah, you know, even if you're running a non-Strigoi list, that's still a lot of magic.
Yeah.
More so if it's a necromancer or a necroc list, that's just strength's gone entirely.
So you can't get at the general. Well, all right, the guys. Whoever I'm playing,
be defensive.
They're keeping their lord out of the way.
Yeah, be defensive.
Don't go at them.
No, they're coming at you. That is they have to.
Yeah.
We've got no missile things other than spells and the Banshee. The Banshee's really short range. It's only 8 inches, so they've got to get close to you. So castle up. Make sure that you're in a real nice defensive position. Don't block your units, and make sure that you can take the charges that you want to take, because you're probably not going to make many charges. You're probably going to be taking them. So get those units there that can take those charges and give yourself some alleyways to then come out and deal with these bricks of knights or graveguard that are coming at you. You know,
what a good. I mean, I don't mean what the names of an item or something like. What a typical in terms of what the item does.
Yeah.
What's typical items to like? I'm assuming anything which is immune to psychology would usually help.
Yeah, I mean, one of the vampire counters. Fear is a weapon in the vampire army, because even a shit unit like skeletons only needs to win combat by 1 and outnumber you, and they're making you run away.
Yeah.
So getting as much immune to psychology as you can in your army, or alternatively fear-causing stuff.
Oh,
because that cancels it out too. You know, getting as much of that in your army as you can, or unbreakable stuff like that. Other kinds of magic items that are really handy is the Empire Van Horseman Speculum, which flips the stats. So you have a nasty vampire coming towards you on a warrior, priest, or a wizard, and you change stats with them. Really handy way of dealing with that, you know.
The Empire's got some surprisingly good items.
Done properly. Yeah. You know, they're pretty pants magic weapons, but then they're talismans and stuff. There's some cool stuff in there. But Wood Elves, you've got Hail of Doom Arrow, so 3d6 shot magic missile. There's your spirit host dead.
Yeah,
you know, it's not even a magic missile. It's fired from their normal bow, and they're like ballistic skill 16 or something, because they're a fucking elf.
What Ethereal you got in your army? Is it just
the Banshee? But most people will run a big block of spirit hosts.
Yeah, they've been. Well, they're just the same as the freaking bats getting it.
But you can't damage them unless it's magic or crumbling. That's the only way you can deal with them. Yeah. You know, so that's another good way of dealing with them. Try and get rid of the unit of skeletons. Most people look at them and they go, "There's no point killing them. They're just going to bring them back." Get rid of them, because then all I can bring it back with is a hand weapon. That's it. Whereas if I've got a unit with light armor, hand weapon, shield, standard, champion, musician, I'm going to keep all that until you kill the very last 3. So
that's a good point, because I remember when I was getting back in, I was going up. I think I had an undead player in the same. You know, when you begin in a tournament, I was like, so I was never played them before, so I was like asking everybody, and the advice was most of the time was, especially I was dark elves at the time. Yeah. So it's usually the first question is, what do I shoot at?
And everyone says, "Oh, not the skellies."
It's the living stuff. Shoot the ghouls. Shoot the which.
No, shoot the thing next to the ghouls, because then the ghouls will panic away.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Their leadership's 6. They'll fuck off.
Yeah, no, that's the point, because they were like, "Oh, you just don't shoot the stuff that they're just going to regenerate."
Black Knights have got a 2-up save.
But that's
What's
such a
the
good
point in throwing small arms at a Black Knights? They're going to probably pass it anyway.
Shoot them. Yeah.
Bolt throwers, brilliant, because no armor saves.
Yeah.
Cannons, brilliant, no armor saves. Stone throwers, all your war machines save for the big units. All your small arms fire, get rid of the dogs. Dogs will ruin your day if you let them come up the flank. Bat swarms, get them as low on wounds as possible before they come in. They're toughness 2.
Yeah.
So even a bow is going to hit them, wound them on a 3, and there's no armor saves. Get rid of them as fast as you can, because if all they've got left is those Black Knights when they come in, easy to deal with. You know, if you take my army list, for example, if you kill all my chaff before it hits you, I've got 2 units of Black Knights and a coach. Can't do anything with that. You know, I'd have to be very lucky, because especially like if you use the Empire detachment tactics, which is you have a parent unit and a couple of small ones on the sides. So the parent unit takes the charge. That's your stubborn one, immune to psych, unbreakable. And then your little ones can come in and close the doors on the side. You've negated a lot of that strength. Black Knights aren't very good turn 2. They've lost their lancers. That's low initiative.
So you got a chance. If you can hang in there,
if you can take that charge, that's what I mean. So castle up, put that unit in the front that can deal with the charge, and then after you've taken that first hit, you're going to take a lot of damage. But after you've taken that first hit, then you can ruin them.
Maybe look at some spells like the ones that, you know, put their weapon skill down, or you get re-rolls.
Yeah. And then vampires, great way of dealing with them, especially the Strigoi ones, when they're right by themselves, charge them with a unit. Doesn't matter what the unit is. 3 ranks standard outnumber. That means that I have to do at least 5 wounds to you.
How many attacks has it got? 5?
6 on a count on a lord, 5 on a count, 4 on a throw.
So the maximum we can get is 6.
So that means I have to do at least 5 or 6 wounds to you. I have to do 5 just to draw combat.
Yeah.
And then you've got a musician, and I've lost by 1 anyway.
So
and then the vampire,
if you manage to get 1 wound off.
Yeah, and then it's lost a wound.
Probably
you know.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's the way of dealing with them, is when they're by themselves, nail them.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. Declare a challenge with a unit champion straight away if it's against a vampire. You can only kill your champion that way.
Yeah.
You know, he's still going to get a load of combat res points, but you're still going to have your unit. So then you're still going to have your 3 rank standard outnumber. He might have 5 kills in your unit champion. You've still then balanced it, and you've still got a musician.
Yeah.
You can still then take the wound off him.
Yeah.
Do that enough times, he will die. Flank, once he's a single character in combat, he's now got a flank and a rear. So then you can hit him with another unit.
Yeah.
That's another 2 in your favour, you know? And that's how you
especially if the players got all excitable and, as you say, flown forward, expecting to do it, and then doesn't manage to do anything.
Yeah,
he's away from the rest of his army as well.
They are a glass cannon, which means if
Yeah.
on the charge, they're nuts.
Yeah.
But then after that charge is made, if you haven't dealt with them, it's all going to go wrong really fast. If you notice, if our game then, every combat that drew out past the first turn, I was buggered.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, because
you know,
it's kind of like I just had to hold in there for one.
Yeah. That's all you have to do is just hold that one turn.
Through me.
And unless I can get a second charger in, I'm dead.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely ruined.
And that was usually the unit with ranks.
Yeah.
It was, I'm sure, the one where I didn't want to do it, but I had to overrun it, and I overran into your lord, didn't it?
Yeah.
But they lasted a couple of rounds.
But I was, he lasted.
You
the only reason
casted a zombie up at the back of them.
That's the only reason I managed it is because you let me have the zombie spell.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, that's not the scary one. Yeah, but it did you in.
Yeah.
Because I only need 6.
Yeah.
And I get your ranks. Well, 5, sorry. And then your ranks are gone. And then my 1 vampire in the front will fucking have you. Because then that's your 3 ranks gone. That means that I don't have to do 5 wounds anymore. I have to do 3.
Yeah.
You know? It's a lot nicer to work that way. So yeah, that's how you deal with vampires. Is methodically. you know. All
right, brilliant. Well, thanks so much. Are you looking forward to War of the Everchosen?
Oh, so much. So I've built this army specifically for them. This is my 3rd undead army. Undead are my little babies. And I really cannot wait for War of the Everchosen. I've just played a game with Dave, and I played another game with my friend Matt
we were using
the
the
other day.
rules, weren't we?
They're insane.
So what do we get? We got on the day we rolled 6
anti-grav.
things. We got anti-grav, so everybody got a couple of extra inches movement. Everybody got +1 strength.
Yeah, and great weapons didn't strike last anymore.
That's right. So that was it didn't help me much, but it helped
but it was crazy. And then the game I played the other day, we had everyone's got poison attacks and armors at -1 save.
That was toxic, yeah.
That was against a demon legion of Nurgle as well, so it was very thematic.
Lore friendly, very lore friendly.
But then bat swarms with poison attacks. They were nasty. The one which I'm terrified to roll, but also equally excited, is the blood frenzy one.
Oh,
where everyone gets hatred, frenzy, and blood greed at the same time. I'm like, oh god, that would be insane. Because I'm thinking, oh, my Black Knight's charging in stuff, but then, oh god, if they're taking charge, I'm thinking something like Empire Greatswords with those rules.
Yeah.
Ow, you know, or Chaos Warriors with 2 hand weapons charging in with that. Chosen Knights suddenly have 3. Chosen Knights of Khorne with that. Chosen Knights of Khorne with hatred. No.
No, thank you.
I don't like that, but no, I'm really looking forward. I can't wait. Really
can't
wait.
It's gonna be fun. It might be a bit mental.
Yeah,
but you can't. That was really good. I really enjoyed that game actually because it's really weird because you kind of look at because obviously it's going into the chaos wastes and each environment's different. There's not one that you don't roll and kind of worry about and go, oh no, that's going to be bad. But you also realise, oh shit, no, that helped. It's bad for everybody and it's good for everybody, so that's what we're trying to balance out.
I mean, if you're taking a gunline army, shame on you anyway, but then your gunline army can suddenly do something in combat if it gets the frenzy one, you know? So.
But I might go in the fog. There's a fog one, which is shooting, so, pros and cons.
Like I say, shame on you for taking a gunline army.
Shame on you. But, so anyway, cheers, mate. Thanks very much for the advice.
Cheers.
Everybody look into if you have a Strigoi, there you go. If you're not, you're thinking about it. I've been talking to a few people recently that been thinking about it.
Does seem to be the new fun little flavour.
New fun one. We'll come talk to you. I'm sure you'll see Tom at a lot of events and Resurrection, and maybe you're going to see a bunch around. So if you see him, I'm sure he'll give you 5 minutes if you.
Absolutely.
Give him.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
No problem. Thanks very much, mate. Much appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you got a lot of advice and hopefully a couple of laughs too. Remember to check out Tom's 3D store on Etsy called TheBeastForge. And remember to check out talesfromtheoldworld.com if you're looking for tickets for War of the Everchosen. And look out next week where I talk to Phil Ashton about his Beastmen army, which is really good. So look out for that. And thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.
Tales from the Old World, a Warhammer fantasy podcast, sponsored by War of the Everchosen, a 6th edition fantasy event with some of the most fun and unique scenarios in the hobby. Go to talesfromtheoldworld.com to get your tickets today to claim the title of Everchosen.